Good afternoon.
Where am I? It's so nice to see all your smiling faces. Thank you for coming out. There is a few other people I like to recognize. Susan from Fort Monroe Authority and Phyllis Terrell and her staff. They put this together, these chairs and the water and all that kind of stuff. Thank you. They deserve a round of applause. Monica, you're going to have to help me with this. We have Ms. Pamela Holly, and she has descendants, right?
Yeah.
Descendants of the fort. Am I correct? And who else am I missing?
Darrell Boyd.
Darrell Boyd. He was the first project?
Hope crew member hired.
The very first Hope Crew member hired. And he's going to come up here and talk at some point. Listen, my name is Terry E. Brown. Last year, this week, I became the superintendent of Fort Monroe National Monument.
Wow.
That was a pretty special moment for me. Thanks. And a few months after I arrived, the National Park Service was celebrating its 100th birthday. And that was a pretty special moment for the agency. It allowed us to look back 100 years and go, oh, wow, look at what we accomplished. We now have 417 units in the National Park Service system. 417. We manage lake shores, seashores, national parks, national monuments, the White House, military parks, military sites. We have them in Guam, American Samoa, Hawaii, the District of Columbia. It's amazing. It really is amazing. But what we did leading up to the celebration was we started a movement to spread the word about all the great places that the National Park Service was managing. All the inspirational stories that the National Park tells, our diverse cultural heritage, our natural resources. Ever since 1916, the National Park Service has been entrusted with taking care of national parks. We do that with the help of volunteers, our partners. We safeguard these special places and we tell these stories to millions and millions of people. Last year alone, folks, check this out. Last year alone, the National Park Service received 350 million visitors. I like to tell young people this. Our agency is about service. Service is actually in our title. National Park Service. Does anyone know the definition of service? Good, I'll tell you. The definition is the action of helping or doing work for someone. And we actually have that in our title. Matter of fact, if you take a look at my uniform when we're offline, take a look at my shoulder, or take a look at the arrowhead, you have a bison and a sequoia tree. It speaks to our wildlife and vegetation. There's mountains and rivers that flow on the patch, and that speaks to our scenic and recreational values. When you look at the arrowhead, it has historical and archaeological values attached to it. We wear it like a badge of honor because it's about service. When I got the call to become superintendent of this fort, trust me, that's not an easy call. You celebrate for one day. Because you walk through the door with one employee, limited funds, and you hope and pray that your partners love you. Thank you, Glenn. But I started off with 4 goals. I knew that I didn't need to set my goals too high. The first goal was I need to connect more people to Fort Monroe. That sounds very simple, doesn't it? But I have to welcome and I have to engage diverse audiences. I have to develop and nurture these lifelong connections between the public and the parks, especially the young people. You have to have recreation. You have to have educational opportunities. You have to open the door for volunteerism. And obviously you have to have work experiences for them. I go to way too many meetings where it's 55 and older and no one this age is in attendance. That's going to change in 3 to 5 years. goal was to advance the education mission of the National Park Service. Education. My dedication to education is so important. I've already dedicated funds to the Hampton City Schools. I didn't wait 6 months. I wrote the check right away. I'm committed. We're looking together, the Fort Monroe Authority, the city, and the National Park Service. We've already done an inventory of all these signs in the fort. In the years to come, they're going to be replaced. How hard was it for you to get here today? Right? Is that necessary? But we're going to change things. We want to educate the community about these rich stories here. The first Africans arrived here in the British North America, right here. These chairs should be filled up with people right now. Trust me, in 3 to 5 years they will be. The third goal was to protect these special resources. In this fort, in this inner fort, the National Park Service manages 3 buildings. The fact that you see structure being worked on today, you should be holding your chest out. There's progress happening at Fort Monroe. I am using every tool in my box as superintendent to tap all the maintenance funds to get Fort Monroe what it needs to be successful. That's my job. You won't see that on the news because you don't see the hard work that's happening behind the scenes. The third goal and fourth goal was to build an effective organization. I walked through the door with 1 employee. Did you hear me correctly?
One employee.
1. But if you look over here to my left, your right, there's 3 more. Yeah. That's progress. That's progress, folks. Someone asked me the other day, Terry, you talk all about your goals, but what have you really done? When I showed up in June, I drove through the gates. There was no Fort Monroe Authority sign. There was no National Park Service sign. 1 month later, we put the sign up, didn't we? We did. In the next few months, you're going to see signs up that will tell you you're in a national park. We have, I don't know if you take a look at this tree right here behind you. That tree is about 500 years old. I've asked Washington to do a tree assessment of all the trees in the fort. Next year, you're going to see people out here treating and taking care of these trees. That's really important. Just a short distance from here, where the contraband decision was made, where Lincoln stayed, you can now drive over there or walk over there and you'll see machinery. You'll see workers actually working on the historic buildings. Again, that is progress. I have stationed here at the fort, and I want to identify them. If you guys can kind of walk around, Larry. I have a specialized team from Washington, D.C. and Massachusetts. They're from the Historic Architecture, Conservation, Engineering Core Program. Boy, that's a long one. But they're stationed here. They are going to be supervising these young folks this summer. My job is to get these young folks in this park, get them engaged. I also want to recognize a very special moment today. Did you know today is Juneteenth?
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, what is that, Terry? What is Juneteenth?
Yeah. Texas.
It's a day in which we commemorate the abolition of slavery in Texas.
Yeah.
And the emancipation of enslaved African Americans throughout the Confederacy. There's so much history. I cannot tell you how proud I am to be superintendent of this fort. And I'll leave my number and my card with all of you. And if you need anything, feel free to call me. There was one other person, Pam Goodert. Can you stand? She's from MPCA. The reason why I highlight her right now is sometimes when you get a new job or you start in a new place, there are people who do work for you and you don't even know about it. Where's Mark Perot? Thank you. to organizations like Citizens for Fort Monroe, Project 1619, the Contraband Society. All these folks have been knocking on my door asking, how can I help you? It makes me so proud to walk up to Washington and tell them what kind of support I'm getting here. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
thank you for welcoming the community into this space. I really appreciate it. With that, I'm going to pass on the podium to Glenn Oder, the Executive Director.